So Tailgaters a year in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. The road to the 136 FBS level of college football teams this summer is taking its next stop back in the Sun Belt Conference. We are in Jonesboro, Arkansas for the Red Wolves of Arkansas State as one of the dark horse picks to get out of their division, get into the Sun Belt Conference Championship, and how much farther can they push some improvement this year? My name is Nate Pope, otherwise known as Tailgate Nate. Thank you all so much for clicking on this video and for helping to support the channel. If you want to support the channel further, well, that's very kind and generous of you. The biggest way you can do that, hit that subscribe button down below, and you can also ring the bell. Turning on notifications will ensure that you don't miss an upload during prediction season, especially not one for your favorite team. I am a sports media graduate delving into the professional world of the industry, and if all of you would like to see the cool stuff I get to do while still being up to date what goes on this very YouTube channel, please give me a follow on Twitter, Instagram. The handle is at TailgateNate29, and feel free to even give me an email, tailgatenate29@gmail.com, or reach out any other way you know how. Thank you all so much for supporting and interacting with me and the channel in whatever way you may be doing so. Let's get down to business when we talk about the Red Wolves and another season where Butch Jones is leading this program. Pretty solid team out of the Sun Belt Conference, and you're really starting to see this Arkansas State team come along. Now, there are a lot of good teams in the Sun Belt West Division. Texas State, South Alabama, Louisiana, they all have videos up on my channel. After you watch this one, please go check those out. Arkansas State, though, I feel like even though there were portions of this team that did not play well last year, and we'll talk about that when we get there here in this video, this is probably one of, if not the biggest dark horse in the Sun Belt. And if everything goes right, you could see them playing an extra week in the Sun Belt Championship game. How do we do preview predictions here on the channel? Well, we are going to go through a roster overview. Offense, over here to the left. Defense, over here to the right. At the end of the video, we are going to dive on into the Red Wolf football schedule. I'll give it a game-by-game preview and prediction, and this video overall is here to tell all of you what I think about the Red Wolves in 2025. Before we dive on into it, bam, returning production down below here shows, obviously, the amount of production from last year returning to this team with transfer portal pieces factored into a certain percentage, and then even down below that, recruiting and transfer portal pieces for the class of 2025 are according to 24/7 Sports. We kick it off with Keith Heckendorf's offense here in Jonesboro, and they have consistency at the quarterback position yet again this season. Jalen Rayner is going to return for another season at the helm of this Arkansas State program, and I'm going to read his stat line off to you, both in rushing and passing, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about the ways that I think he can improve and what I think we're going to see from him in 2025. 2,783 yards, 16 touchdowns, 10 interceptions on 62% completion percentage. As a rusher, 387 yards, 3 touchdowns on 2.8 yards per carry. Sack yardage is included in that, and he did get sacked 31 times. You take out the sack yardage, he has well over 500 yards of rushing last year. This is a guy in Jalen Rayner that obviously you heard the 16 touchdowns to 10 interceptions, and it feels like I'm re-echoing a thought that I've echoed before, but the general baseline I give for quarterbacks that want to see improvement and have had numbers that low, 25 touchdowns, 7 picks. That's a pretty darn good baseline, and obviously you want to be a lot higher than that in touchdowns and a lot lower than that in picks. But that's a pretty darn solid baseline that I don't really think anybody can argue with out of a collegiate quarterback, but I think more touchdown production is absolutely necessary if this team wants to reach a Sun Belt championship game. But what I also think is I think there's something in his run game that we haven't seen yet. And maybe that's just me. Maybe Arkansas State fans out there are like, we've seen the extent of his run game. It is what it is. It's solid. It provides good production. I got a feeling, guys, that he can provide more. I don't know what it is, just this gut feeling that's telling me. I think Jalen Rayner is very, very athletic. He's a really good athlete, and I think he's got some more rushing ability to provide where he can get to 500 yards of rushing, even if you include that sack yardage. And he's ripped off big runs before. Had a 40-yard run last year, had a 62-yard run in 2023. It's a guy that can be very explosive and dynamic, and I want to see that from his run game ability this season. I won't necessarily be disappointed if he doesn't, but I have a feeling that his full rushing ability is yet to be unleashed, and I want to see that come out. Speaking of rushing, I have mentioned this one particular player many a times in videos because I think he's going to be really dangerous. But before we talk about him, we need to talk about the leading rusher on this team. For last year, it was Zach Wallace. 154 carries, got the most on the team, 721 yards, and 11 touchdowns of production for him last season. So he is going to be off and gone. But the guy that is coming back to this team this year is Jaquez Cross. Was a really good running back for the team in 2023, 716 yards and 7 touchdowns. Last year, 638 yards and 2 touchdowns. His production did take a dip, especially in touchdown production, but he did see a couple games specifically against Texas State and Southern Miss last year where he really exploded and had himself a really darn good game, especially that Texas State game where he averaged over 10 yards per pop. Speaking of which, 5.5 yards per carry last year, and is a very good viable receiving option. Got his first career receiving touchdown last year with 228 yards and 35 catches to boot. What's more, you get a guy in Kenyon Clay coming over from Southern Miss that had nearly 400 yards and 7 touchdowns of rushing production with the Sun Belt's Golden Eagles last year. So you throw him into the mix, just like Cross was to Wallace last year. Clay to Cross will be a great number 2 option and a really good 1-2 punch in the running back room. You do lose a lot of wide receiver depth. Your second, third, and fourth leading receivers are all gone. Their names are as follows. Courtney Jackson is now over with the NFL's Denver Broncos. Reagan Ely has moved on and graduated. Adam Jones has moved on and graduated. So losing those 3 guys really on the surface is going to hurt the depth, and this team still might not be as good depth-wise as they were last year, but you get your star back. Corey Rucker is returning to this receiving room after posting a 1,053-yard season with 7 receiving touchdowns on a team-high 69 catches a season ago. He is a dynamic weapon and possibly one of the best wide receivers in the Sun Belt Conference. I really like his game. He is a massive returning piece to this offense, and even though a lot of depth is gone, there still is talent here. Hunter Summers is a young returner that's going to be thrown into a starting role because he is that good. And then a lot of transfers, Nana Burris, J.J. Harrell, DeMarco Blanton, and some other young pieces that are up and coming that are going to sit back in the wings of this receiver room. So I think you got a lot of talent still here. However, the tight end room, as we still talk about pass catchers, can be a little bit of a mystery to me as your top 2 tight ends from last season do leave the program. So Tyler Little is going to be assumably thrust into that lead role, but we'll see who emerges between him, another returner, and Jabari Bush, which is unlikely because he is a really young piece, redshirted last year as a true freshman. And then you have a transfer in Tyler Fortenberry, who is coming over from Vanderbilt. So you get him coming in to pair with Tyler Little. Again, a little bit of a mystery to me to see who emerges, but I still think you got a solid enough tight end room here in this offensive unit. As far as your offensive line goes, again, it did allow 35 sacks last year, 31 of them to Jalen Rayner. This is an offensive line that I think can see some tremendous improvement and needs a pair of spots filled. Portal pieces are going to enter at the very least for more depth. However, the left guard position is wide open and probably will be filled by a transfer. Ourlads.com, the website that I use, is saying here, Will Saxton, probably going to end up being that piece. And you have a lot of young pieces. Riley McGee is a true sophomore that might slot into that left tackle position. Mason Myers is a redshirt sophomore that's looking to play center for you this year. And then you have some other experienced pieces on the right-hand side, but it's going to be a lot of young talent and transfers mixing into the offensive line that has to get better in pass protection for this team to reach its ceiling. Overall, again, I think if Jalen Rayner can use his full ability this season, because I think he still can show us some more. He's got a ton of really talented pieces around him. Offensive line needs some improvement, but I think the offense is still going to be pretty formidable for a lot of Sun Belt defenses. And speaking of defenses and being formidable, well, Griff McCauley is going to be taking over a defense that just was not that formidable last year. I think it allowed over 450 yards per game, only 19 sacks last year. And while the secondary was solid in moments, forcing quite a bit of interceptions, if I do remember correctly. Yes, 14 picks last year, so that is quite the number. This is an overall defense that I think just needs to hone everything in a whole lot better. And it doesn't help that you lose 66% of your defensive production from last year. That means only 34% of it returns. So a lot of talent is going to be portaling in here to try to lead this defense to a rebound season after, again, it was just not good a season ago. Many defensive line mainstays are going to be gone. However, you get one returner, and that is Brian Whitehead, tied for the team lead in sacks last year with 4. He was tied with a guy by the name of Jaden Jones, who was one of the departures on this defensive front. So Brian Whitehead is going to be returning to lead this unit that has portal pieces aplenty. You're going to be getting Simeon Mitchell. You're going to get Cody Sigler. Those are 2 guys that are probably going to slot into the interior. Marcus Bradley, as a redshirt senior, is going to return to flank Brian Whitehead on the other side of the defensive front. And you got some more transfers and returners to mention coming in there. But overall, very experienced unit. I don't think you're going to see a lot of sophomores or freshmen, true or redshirt, get that much time this year. I think you're maybe going to see a couple of guys, but overall a very, very experienced unit with a lot of good talent on it. And it's just got to see some improvement this year, right? Especially in sack production, only 19 last year. That's got to get a whole lot better. Pretty much all of your major linebacker pieces from a season ago are gone. That includes 2 top 3 tacklers. Marvin Ham, your leading tackler, had 98 tackles last year, and you also had another member of the 90 tackle club in Charles Willikes, who is gone as well. 92 tackles for him a season ago. Did also pick off a pass. How about that as a linebacker? So the portal is going to revamp this entire linebacking room, and portaling in are 2 pieces that are set to now be the lead duo in this room. It's Aaron Alexander, who's coming over from Michigan State, also formerly from the UMass Minutemen, as well as Wyatt Wright, who is an NC State transfer that played at many different community and junior colleges, such as Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College and Fresno City College. So he's going to be coming in and will be put into a lead role with this Arkansas State Red Wolf team. And you do have some other pieces returning behind you, like Kyle Taylor, Chase Bogle, who's a younger player, and some other names as well. But those 2 guys that you see right over here going to be the lead pieces in this linebacking unit. As far as your defensive backroom goes, it overall sees a lot of good pieces leave, but man, this safety room, oh boy, just so many great, phenomenal pieces are gone. Second leading tackler, Justin Parks, 96 tackles, had 3 pass defended with 2 picks last year. You look at Travion Thomas, who rightly so has earned a role with the NFL's Carolina Panthers, 79 tackles, 4 passes defended, 5 interceptions, which led the team last year. Websley Etienne is also going to be gone. Dante Joyner is also going to be gone. Those are 4 safeties that were top 6 in tackling for you last year. And again, this overall defensive back room does lose a lot. Justin Hodges is a corner that's going to be leaving, and you just see a ton of talent leaving the secondary. So transfers are going to be heavily featured on this defense. Avante Dickerson, Trayvon Howard, AJ McGee, who probably is the best transfer they're bringing in over from Marshall, 54 tackles a season ago, to go along with 46 tackles, 3 pass defended, so has 100 tackles on his collegiate career. Trenton Yao and just so many other names are portaling into the secondary, heavily featured portal room, and it's going to be pretty much entirely rebuilt from what it was a season ago. As far as special teams unit, Clune Van Ondel is going to return to kick. Hopefully I said that name correctly, while a new punter is set to take over the fray. So that is your report on the roster enveloping this this Arkansas State Red Wolf team. And overall, again, the defense just needs some tremendous improvement, and there's not really much more you can say about it. However, again, as I mentioned earlier, offensively, if they can emerge, especially Jalen Rayner at quarterback, into a superstar, he's already a really good player. If he can be that superstar level, the offensive line gets better and the defense takes some massive steps forward. I don't think it needs to be world beating. It needs to take some big steps forward. I think this is a Red Wolf team that can surprise a lot of people this year. All right, so you take a look right over here at the Red Wolf football schedule. And before we dive on into this, just some numbers down below. face cam right here, courtesy of the good people at FanDuel. No, I am not sponsored, and no, I'm not telling you to go place your money. Just provide some good context to how good the odds makers think Arkansas State is going to be this season. 5.5 is that over/under win total, so bordering right on the edge of bowl eligibility. And I get it, right? You're in a very competitive very competitive division in the Sun Belt West. You need your defense to take some massive steps forward this season. And there are going to be a lot of teams on this schedule that honestly could prove to be pretty darn good this upcoming season, as well as some games that you're going to look at on the road against teams that might not be so good, that could be really tricky here for this program. Overall, though, they do have pretty long odds to get into the college football playoff. I think a lot of that has to do with the amount of defensive improvement needed. And this is going to surprise some of you out there. You might think Arkansas State, okay, the way I've been talking about them, top half. Maybe it shows you I'm a little higher on Arkansas State than most. They have the fourth worst odds to go win the Sun Belt Conference this year, which again, I get it. You're in a very, very competitive division in the Sun Belt Conference, and this is very much a team that needs a lot of improvement. However, they are going to get their first win of the season right away. I don't see Southeast Missouri State or SEMO being that much trouble here for this Arkansas State program. I think they're going to win that one with ease, and then they stay in state, but it's their first road game of the year. You got to go on the road and play the Arkansas Razorbacks, and Arkansas very well might not prove to be that great of a team once the end of the season comes around, but they were a pretty solid team last year, and they boast still some really impressive talent. Tailon Green is going to be coming back at the quarterback position with a really good young running back in Braylon Russell. Really good wide receiver portal pieces are going to be transferring in, while a ton of defensive production is back to a team that made a bowl game last year. Gonna be difficult for them to do it again. If not, maybe you see Arkansas coach searching, but I do think as compared to this Arkansas State team, there's a lot of talent on Arkansas, and I think offensively, when you have to try to game plan for Tailon Green and some of these wide receiver pieces, there's no amount of defensive help that early in the season that I think Arkansas State is going to develop. I just don't see their defense adjusting and improving that quickly to have to defend some of the weapons that the Razorbacks have this year. And it's a road game, so I like that as a win for Arkansas. Even though they got this one at home against Iowa State, which I say it every time something like this happens, I love that Power 4 teams are now going on, Power 4 teams are now going on the road and playing these group of 5 schools. I think it's so good for college football. Iowa State on the road to play the Arkansas State Red Wolves. I do think Arkansas State's going to lose this game, but could be a very interesting environment. I just also kind of like Arkansas, and even more so to my point with Arkansas, I think Iowa State, even though they lost their 2 leading receivers, I think they got too much offensive talent for this Arkansas State defense to handle. And again, there's too much improvement needed out of this Arkansas State team to be able to defend some of the weapons that Iowa State has got. Rocco Becht at quarterback. You got Carson Hansen and Abu Sama as junior running backs. Both of them will be really good. You're going to replace your 1-2 punch at wide receiver with a couple transfers that I like in Chase Sowell and Xavier Townsend, and what overall might be a deeper wide receiver unit than you had last season. And defensively, lost a couple of really good defensive playmakers, but man, do I still like this Iowa State team. They made it to the Big 12 championship game last year. They definitely can do it again this year. Won't talk too much more about it. You lose to both of the Power 5 teams that you played this season. If you're going to win one of them, I think Arkansas is the more winnable game, but it'll be interesting to see how they play the Cyclones at home. Now, I also would not discount this game on the road, even though I'm pretty confident, and a lot of Red Wolf fans have a lot of reason to be confident. Kennesaw State was not that great of a team last year, only 2-10 as their first trip. Or I should say, as their first season as a member of the FBS with Jerry Mack as a head coach. Look, you're bringing in some really good pieces through the transfer portal on top of the fact that Kennesaw State has a ton of returning production from a season ago, especially on that defensive end. It's a team that's probably going to see some level of improvement, whether it's a lot or it's a little is remained to be seen. They're probably going to make some level of improvement in the FBS play this year, and I could definitely see them giving this Arkansas State team a run. Do I think they win the game? Not as of this moment. Would it necessarily surprise me? wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world to me. I think Arkansas State has got the better talent, and even with the amount of returning production that Kennesaw State does have, again, especially defensively, I do see this Arkansas State offense being a little bit too much for what Kennesaw State has got, and that's the reason why they win the game. But man, is that one, I think, going to be a little too close for comfort. You get to go on the road again for the second straight week, and much like Kennesaw State and some of the other teams that Arkansas State's going to play this year, get there when we get there, ULM is definitely going to see some improvement this season as well. Again, do I think they're going to win the game? Not necessarily. Again, this is a really competitive division in the Sun Belt Conference, and I think anything can happen. You go on the road and lose that one, much like the one against Kennesaw State, wouldn't be the most shocking thing, but same argument here with the Warhawks that I just had with the Owls. Too much talent offensively. Don't think the Warhawk defense going to be able to slow it down. And then you get this home game against Texas State. You just fought through two really, really grueling games. Or what could be very, very grueling games where you might have to squeak out a win or you win pretty uncomfortably. I'm not saying they win comfortably here because Texas State is a really, really good team, but I do think you beat this Texas State team. They might not have that great of a quarterback situation, especially after Giovanni McCoy decided to pack up his bags and go over to Temple with new head coach K.C. Keeler. Originally was committed over to Texas State. While I do like Nate Yarnell, the more impressive thing about Texas State is all the pieces they have surrounding. However, Ismail Mahdi, no longer there. Some really good defensive pieces, no longer there. And Texas State, while I think going to be a good team this year, they are not invulnerable. So that is not a word, I don't think. You guys get my point. I think Texas State going to end up losing this game, and Arkansas State gets the surprising win after coming back home. So you're 4-2 through your first 6 games, and you enter the second half of the season really feeling pretty confident. You just knocked off a team in Texas State that probably could go play for the Sun Belt Championship game. I think this is where you hit a rough patch of the season. I think you go on a 3-game losing streak here at South Alabama. This is one of the weird, even though you have a bye week, it's technically not that, it really shouldn't feel like that much of a bye week because even though you don't play on Saturday, you have to flip right around and play on Tuesday. I get it, pretty common practice when you play on Saturday, have to go play on a Tuesday one week. It is what it is, right? But this is a South Alabama team that I still think is really, really dangerous, even with Gio Lopez gone. Guys, they, much like Arkansas State, have a ton of really, really impressive talent. While their wide receiver room is going to look a little different, Devin Voisin, if he gets back to his former self, going to be one of the better wide receiver pieces along with Corey Rucker. Zach Pyron, I think, can figure it out as the starting quarterback with Kentrell Bullock coming back to be your running back. Lots of good portal pieces, and I do think South Alabama going to be quite the solid team this year, especially going on the road. Don't think Arkansas State is going to get that win. And this defense, guys, is just going to have moments this year, even if it does see improvement and get better. It really is just going to see moments where it can't figure anything out, and against an offense that Clay Helton and Georgia Southern are going to run this year with J.C. French, O.J. Arnold, some really excellent wide receiver pieces. I just don't see Arkansas State being able to slow them down. And then totally different game plan here when you go play Troy. Even though you do not have oh my goodness, why am I forgetting the coach's name? John Summerall. Even though you don't have John Summerall on the sideline, you have another defensive-minded guy in the likes of Gerard Parker on the sideline. And Troy is very much so still a program where you're going to have to grind, be physical, and battle it out. And I don't think that Arkansas State is going to live up to the physicality bill that Troy can push at you from every different angle, especially from that defensive front that still has a lot of good pieces on it. And I like Goose Crowder at quarterback. I think he's a nice, solid player. Arkansas State falls in potential upset fashion on the road to Troy. So bam, there you go. The 3 straight losses, but I did only say 3-game losing streak. Right now, again, similar argument with Kennesaw State, ULM. Southern Miss is going to see improvement this year. They have Charles Huff coming over there on the sideline. And a revamped team through the transfer portal. Very revamped team through the transfer portal. They're going to see some improvement this year as Charles Huff starts to implement his system, but not enough to beat this Red Wolf team. Red Wolves, I think, keep that momentum going after the bye week. Now you get one of these weekday games at home. You had to go on the road earlier this season. You get this one at home, and I think you're going to beat Louisiana there. Louisiana very well could emerge back into the Sun Belt Championship game again this season. However, I believe that they're going to falter on the road here to, again, a team in Arkansas State that could have a pretty high and dynamic offense. And I think you get this one done on the road against App State as well. I got a lot of questions about some of the things on this Mountaineer team. However, I do think there are a lot of solid pieces. I think AJ Swan's a good enough quarterback to get them by. He won't be as spectacular as Joey Aguilar, but he'll be good enough. Kanye Roberts is there. Some really good wide receiver pieces, as App State still trying to figure out the foundation. Now they have another new head coach that's never been a head coach before to try to help things out here. And as an offensive-minded guy, defense at App State needs some improvement. Could be an offensive fireworks show, and I think Arkansas State has got the better offensive pieces. So 7-5 with a 5-3 record in conference. That 5-3 record may still very well be good enough to get into the Sun Belt Championship game at the end of the year. Who knows, especially with how competitive their division in the Sun Belt West is. But for me, a lot of things just need to change for this team to take that next step, and I need to see it to believe it. That defense has got to get a whole lot better, and I want to see more out of Jalen Rayner, because I know and I think that I know that he can provide it. But I think he got a lot of good offensive pieces. I think you're going to get some big wins this year with some disappointing losses mixed in, and overall another solid season here with the Red Wolves and Butch Jones. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, and remember to play hard but tailgate harder. I'll see all you guys in the next video. Goodbye.